Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome back to Slave Ages podcast. Here we are, season six. And most of you out there who've listened to the Slave Ages podcast know my affection, obsession with the band Toto. And I'm glad to have another part of the Toto puzzle here, Dennis Atlas, to talk about his work with the band and also some of his solo work. Dennis, how are you?
I'm doing great. Good to see you, Preston. Good to see you.
Dennis, it's good to see you too. I know you've been on the road a little bit already this year. I know you're about to head out on the road again later this spring and summer. One of the things I do on the Sling of Ages podcast, and I've been doing this for 3 years, 7 seasons, is I typically ask the guests to give me five of their top five albums. Now, a lot of the guests will say, I can't do that. It's impossible. One guest who is a rather, I'll give his name, Vinny Zuma, who is a guitarist out of New York for Joe Jackson, sent me a list of 100 albums. You gave me five albums, but I love your list, and I usually don't talk about the list. I usually just print it when I do the article. But I just love the first one, Cyclorama. My God, man, that's a rare one. It's a rare Styx album.
That's why it went on there because that's not the only reason, but that album has always just spoken to me and I grew up with it because I just grew up in that era of Styx. And for some reason it always struck this chord with me and no one knows about it. So it's like this
Right.
frustrating thing that just makes you want to love it more. And it's this bright, great album. It's got the greatest song ever written just about, and that's One With Everything on there. And it's just great, great Styx album.
It is a great Styx album. My favorite's probably Brave New World, which is
Oh,
also
right
one which
before.
fell through the
Totally.
cracks. Um, and one of the things I noticed when I looked through your website, which is dennisatlas.com, was that even though Toto has you as a keyboardist and vocalist, you are a multi-instrumentalist. You play everything. You play everything really well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I believe that I play keys and vocals very well, and the other stuff I can get by a little bit, so that's always fun.
But
But
that's pretty modest considering you're playing some Dream Theater stuff on guitar, drums, and bass. That's amazing, man.
I love doing that stuff. It's a good challenge, and it made me pick up those instruments and fiddle with them in ways that I hadn't before. So that was
Where'd you start as an instrumentalist? How'd you start in your music?
well, very first thing was singing. From my earliest memories, and since before that, from things that my parents tell me I was telling me I was singing along to and singing since forever. And then I grew fascinated with piano. We had one sitting in the house. It was way out of tune. In fact, I think it was tuned down a half step for some reason. And I gravitated toward that, and I loved Styx and Queen, which had these frontmen, lead singer, piano players in them. And so I was drawn to that, and my parents signed me up for piano lessons. So it all went from there. And
Oh,
the other
amazing.
instrument
Yeah,
just
it's
kind of
that's good
much
stuff.
later on became a part of it as well.
So did you have any formal music training?
Yeah, the piano lessons were classical, serious piano lessons with a lady out here in Santa Clarita, and yeah, it was that was really all the training that I needed formally to get me up to speed with music theory and playing, and from there it was a matter of actually wanting to take that and practice, and I still believe I could take it to a much you always think that, man, if I could just get more time to practice in and do this and this and this, but that's where it all started was, yeah, that classical background with those piano lessons.
And then what was your goal at that point? Was it to teach? Was it to perform?
Always to be a rock star. That was it. You could ask me the same question when I was 4 years old. It would have been, I want to be a rock star. And that's it. So, and all that it entails is writing music and playing in great bands and collaborating and playing instruments and singing and going out front and just giving giving a big crowd of people a good time and making them feel it in their hearts. So
That's good stuff, Dennis. Could you give us an overview of the bands you've been involved with before you hooked up with Toto?
sure. So let's see. Let's go way back. It started in the garage with my older brother, and we made a band called Slow Motion, and we started writing some songs with a couple of his friends that we formed this little band, and we covered a few songs as well, but we were mainly writing really music I still look back on and think, wow, I would love to put that out one day into the world because it was it was really cool for a couple of teenagers in the garage writing stuff. And then it turned into I wanted to start a Styx tribute band with my friends. So I was the 14-year-old kid saying, "Guys, check this stuff out." And started that also in the garage, but we ended up playing in casinos and all sorts of things and outdoor concerts and things in Vegas and all that. Even before we were old enough to be in casinos, that band ended up taking on a life of its own, which was really great. And from there, I ended up playing in other tribute bands. Like I played in a Boston tribute band, an REO Speedwagon tribute band, a Kansas tribute band was a blast. And then I got hired to sing in this multi-dimensional tribute band from the Midwest called Arch Allies. And that was a blast because we did Styx, Queen, Journey, REO, Boston, Def Leppard, which I'm repping my Leopard now, and what am I missing? Bon Jovi, all in the same show. So I've done a lot of those classic rock cover band and tribute band things, and then some other original bands, obviously along the way. Primarily, I wrote and recorded an entire album with a band called Initiator,
Mhm.
which was a very collaborative thing that I consider that my first main art and my first album that I put out was that. It was Initiator. And I also played in a band called Lufe, or could still still sing in this band, which is a Brazilian progressive rock band.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we put out an album with that. And
Is it in Portuguese?
no, it's in English. So all the guys
Okay.
are from Brazil, and they wanted to have an American singer because and the
Mhm.
drummer lives here in the U.S. now. So they wanted to have someone who genuinely speaks English every day singing these songs and delivering them. So we ended up forming this bond, and it was just this perfect one of those things. The universe just brought us together, and it ended up being this great project. So that's Lufe. If you ever see those songs out there on YouTube or anywhere, and we've done a few shows as well with that. And
Mhm.
then I ended up playing in this cover band called The Trip, and that one, it was like it encapsulated everything that came before and so much more because I kind of had this secret idea. I wanted to put together a band that just played everything. I thought, what if we played ABBA and Bruno Mars and Metallica all in the same show? People would love it, right? And so I was talking about it with my friends. It never came to be. And then I got a call to join this band, The Trip, which was this cover band that plays parties and corporate parties, concerts in the parks, all kinds of things out here in Southern California. And it was that band. I mean, that band could start the show with "I wanna hold your hand" and end the show with "Run to the hills," and the whole everything in between, and it would just be a dance party the whole time. Anyway, I take a moment with that band to describe it because I ended up meeting Ron Bumblefoot Thal through that
Oh my
band.
God, what an amazing musician.
Uh-huh. He's an alien, and he would play with us as a special guest in The Trip. That was the thing is I got this call to join this cover band. And I'm going, how is this cover band doing what they're saying they're doing? And I really, Ron Thal is playing with it. They must be really. And then I started playing with them, and I started to understand the quality of what was going on. And anyway, Ron was the one who ended up introducing me to Steve Lukather. So that's kind of the whole story of how it went through all of the original bands and all of the cover bands and everything, and eventually landed my way into the world that we live in now, which is a beautiful and wonderful world.
The world of Toto. Yeah, I think I first saw Ron, must have been at the show he did with Asia, where it was Asia and Carl Palmer and Yes and some other bands. And I got to meet him backstage. Then I saw him once after that. And it was just an amazing guitarist, an amazing vocalist. In fact, you
Yeah.
two have a lot in common because you're an amazing musician, all-around musician, and then you're also an amazing vocalist. So you came into Toto. That was last year, 2024, right?
Yeah. Well, and first of all, anyone comparing me in any way to Ron Thal, I'll take as a huge compliment. That's like he's out of this world. But yeah, I came into Toto into the fold in 2024, so just 6 months ago.
Mhm.
And yeah, talk about life changing.
Well, that was just before they went on another leg of their tour, right?
Right. Yeah, right in between the last leg, which was mainly a US leg and or North America leg, and then
Mhm.
right before going to Europe. So my first show was in Europe.
Wow. So at that point, Greg had stepped in for X, and you had taken the second keyboard role. Talk a little bit about the preparation for the shows.
Yeah, so I received that phone call that I was in what was it? I should have this date memorized. I think it was May el- was it May 11th or something along those lines. And our first show was June 23rd in Luxembourg. So I had about 5 weeks from the time that I heard you're doing it. You're gonna you're playing in Toto now, to being on stage. So in those 5 weeks, and I had other gigs going on
Mhm.
throughout that time too. So throughout those weeks, I just sat down at my keyboards and I was given the set list and given which keyboard parts I was going to be learning out
Mhm.
of, because there's two keyboardists in the band. And then same thing with the vocal parts. I was given an idea of which parts I was taking, mainly usually the high one when there's a chorus. It was that role in the band. So I sat here in this very studio and just crammed it all out and just what I do when I'm learning is I like to record. So as I learn the part to get it down, I might record a little video with one hand and another hand's playing it or something like that, or
Wow.
set up a camera and this is just because when you hear it, it's one thing, but when you actually figure out how you're going to orchestrate it on the keyboard with what sounds and everything, which the sounds are, of course, the bulk of the work when you're playing keys, is you learn the lick and then you sit for 20 minutes adjusting every little nuance of all the synth sounds and organ sounds. And when I had down what I wanted to play, I would record it into Logic so I can listen back and say, okay, that's what I'm going for now. I just have to practice that. And yeah, and there you had it. It was 17 songs, and we actually met up at David Page's house, just David, Greg, and I, and
Mhm.
went through all of the parts. And I showed up as prepared as I possibly could, again, in that only couple of weeks at this point. And they, man, they were able to give me so much knowledge, so many. It was just this beautiful day of being told by these two phenomenal and world-class keyboardists, oh, hey, you could turn the cutoff frequency up here, or you could orchestrate, you could arrange and voice these chords this way, or this part here, you got to play it with this particular dynamic. And it was all of this fine tuning of what turned it from just sounding like when I walked in to really sounding like Toto playing these songs. It really, that was a big part of the magic. And also, I was watching over David's shoulder a little as he's texting Luke going, we're good. He's got it down. Because, they're all kind of freaking out. We got this leg coming up.
Right.
We hope we hired the right guy. And I just wanted to walk in and blow blow out any possibility that there was any question of that. So, and we did that. We went over to David's house twice to go over the keyboard parts, but then we only had one single rehearsal with the whole band. The
Wow.
day that they were packing up our equipment to go to Europe. So the equipment has to go a couple weeks in advance to get there and get all set up, and then we go there. So our rehearsal was that very last day before they had to send it. So that rehearsal had to go well.
So let me back up a little bit. So two things I want to hit on, the vocals and the sound. Toto has for half of their career two keyboardists, one of which was really instrumental in creating the keyboard sounds, the samples. Were you given programs by Greg Gaines and David Page, or I mean, how did that work that you got the sounds? You had to do it yourself?
No, I that to me is first of all, that's something that tend to specialize in as a keyboard player, and that's part of why I get recommended from from band to band to do this role. Is it's half of it is in the playing and the performance, but a big part of it as a keyboard player is saying, "Oh, this song has horns and strings and synth and this and that,"
Wow.
and figuring out how to get that onto your 88 keys, or now I'm using two keyboards, and how to layer and split and get that all over here. So I showed up as prepared as I could to just be ready to
Mhm.
do that, and I I just created the sounds on my own using MainStage and my all of my plugins that I use within that. MainStage is the software by Apple that
Right.
I use on my laptop, and then the keyboards are controlling those sounds. So none of the sounds are coming from the internal sounds of the keyboards. They're all
They're all
coming,
controllers, right?
yeah, they're all these are all sounds that I'm able to dial in my software. So I'm fairly experienced in doing that. And then when I came in there, then they had all of these notes and little things that we were able to dial in further from there. But it was very much building those sounds from scratch, which as a keyboard player you want to do. I mean, imagine if you're a guitar player, you don't want to step in and play someone else's rig. As a keyboard player, again, half of your job is creating those sounds. So I I take a lot of I put a lot of creativity and take a lot of pride in the sounds that I create and try to, in this case, 99% of it is just trying to replicate what people are so familiar with on that studio version of the song. So a lot of it is that.
Yeah, very good. That's amazing. Another piece is that I've talked to a few people who've worked with the band before on stage, and they've talked about the tightness of the harmony vocals and the high harmonies. And you have Joe Williams and you have Warren Ham there, who both are excellent singers, but you're handling the highest parts, right?
Yeah,
Most
and Greg, don't forget about Greg. I think
you're
he's
filling
the
games,
most,
right?
yeah. I feel like every human being who lets out a voice, lets out a sound, their voice from their body, people forget that's a live performance, and I think people hear so little actually live performance nowadays that they forget what it sounds like. And we're not machines. Our voices, they waver in this in how we create pitch.
Hmm.
Except Greg, for some reason, he's just always perfect. It doesn't even make sense, and he doesn't even have to prepare it. I mean, he does prepare, but I just mean that the first time he makes a noise out of his mouth, it's always like it's like he's playing an instrument. It just comes from within. But anyway, yeah, it's a lot of very experienced singers who've listened back to themselves or have corrected their pitch enough times and had to go into the studio and record that enough times to where they know how to sing right on that note, and the parts are very well arranged, and I walked into a very well-oiled machine where everybody already, of course, has been singing these songs not only for years and years and years, but even on this tour. I walked in where in the middle of that year where the set list was continuous, it was staying the same from what was before, so it
Hmm.
was already very tight. So I just came in knowing exactly what I was singing, knowing my part, and it all fell into place. And luckily we had a really nice vocal blend as well, and
Hmm.
they really appreciated that, and they liked the tone of my voice, which was a great feeling for me.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of
Yeah,
your.
a lot of sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to add that, yeah, a lot of thought has to go into those vocal harmonies, that everyone truly knows what part they're singing, what note it is, and could point it out. If they're looking at a keyboard, they understand the difference between a major and a minor chord and what's going on. So there's a there's the physical aspect of it, and also the knowledge, the music theory knowledge that goes along with singing those kinds of harmonies.
Yeah, I've seen a few videos of it from the prior tour, and the harmonies are excellent. Yeah, you're a good, you're a really good fit. Um,
Well,
you're
thank you.
on the side of the stage where Lukather's amps are. I know you use in-ear monitors, right? But he
Yeah.
tends to be loud.
You know, I it might be my positioning, the way that I'm
Okay, that's
next to the
that.
amps, and they're kind of either are they right where I'm standing? I think they're just in front of where I'm standing
Mhm.
to the side. So they aren't blasting at me. I've never noticed it. And I've been asked that question before, and either Luke is just one of those extremely musical pro musicians who doesn't ever turn his stuff up too loud, or I might just be on the other side of it. So either way, I've never actually, yeah, I've never had an issue with that. My in-ears are also, they isolate enough of the noise, and most of the noise that you hear on stage is always from a drum set anyway. So,
Right.
yeah, I actually haven't experienced any, any of that problem, but they certainly sound good. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, they really do. So, in terms of the song, the set list, which song or songs are the most challenging for you from Toto?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I always look forward to that Rosanna solo every night and that Africa solo every night because those were the first couple of things that I thought I better get this down first, and then the rest you kind of work on the most important things first, and then the rest of the set list you want to work around that, and then also I did the same thing as I wanted to send a video to Luke when I was learning the songs because he's texting me like, "Hey man, you're doing good. I know you got it, but is everything good? Like, reach out to me. Any questions you got? Because, I mean, no pressure. The first show's in front of 20,000 people in Luxembourg. Just
But
one
no pressure.
rehearsal, no pressure." And so I sent him a video of me playing the Rosanna solo and the Africa solo, and I think the 99 solo, or it might not. It's something along those lines. But those are a few of them that I always really look forward to, and I kind of get into this mindset, and I just think about why I'm there, and I go, I want to play this right, and try to play every single note of it right because there's a lot of notes and a lot of sound changes going on in there as well. So that was a fun part of the show to design on the keyboard to be able to play, and then they all
Mm.
have to intertwine just right. So that's always a fun thing to do. And then of course the vocals, the high harmonies, and I remember from 2024, almost every night we were playing with a little help from my friends, and with the more like the Joe Cocker version, or it's like the
Yeah.
Toto version, and that high harmony. It's so these long, drawn out notes that keep happening over the course of this song. So maintaining the right vocal, the right vocal posture to make sure that you're not blowing your voice out on those notes is also important. So some of
Especially for a
those
song
things,
that late in the show, too, because that's pretty late in the show. That's like
right?
encore.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, it's right there yeah, near the end of it. So yeah, that's those kinds of things are always a fun challenge as well. Yeah.
Mhm. And you're doing a lot of the vocal on Goodbye Girl, the high part of that as well, which I would imagine be a bear.
Yeah, that was a really fun moment. The moment we were in rehearsal, kind of figuring out how we were going to do that part, and we they decided on me singing it after a couple of different, we tried it a couple different ways and thought of it a couple different ways, but when they heard me sing it, it was like, there it is, and I went, all right. That was kind of my first moment of feeling like I was accepted here because it was our first. It was that was literally the first song that we played together, the seven of us in the room. So when we got to that part and I sang it and Luke gave me this big smile, like, that's it. This is it. This voice blends with us and that's a good moment. I went, wow, I'm not only am I about to walk on stage as the new keyboardist of Toto in front of 20,000 people in Luxembourg for my first time in Europe, I'm going to walk on stage and in the first song I'm singing this high, totally legendary Bobby Kimball part that just I was it was thrilling. And so yeah, I just kind of closed my eyes and let that one out, and yeah, that's a great moment as well.
Yeah, to be able to do that night after night is a testament to your acumen for sure. So you're coming up. You've just finished a few dates in South America. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, we did 7 shows throughout Mexico and South America, and that was, yeah, it was a blast. That was just in November that we did that.
Mhm. How was that?
Just just tremendous. I've played in South America once before with that band Lufe that from Brazil, and I noted it then when we were an opening act for a band that even as the opening act, we were people treat you there. They embrace and they appreciate music so much. And here we are with Toto, this legendary headline act, and they haven't been there in 14 years, I think it was. And people were so excited. These shows were sold out. We're playing in these giant arenas. And at one point, actually, we were starting that song, A Little Help from My Friends, and I start the organ part at the beginning, and I fade it in nice and soft. And they're going, ole, 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 and they would not stop. So I'm fading it in, and Luke's like, and I stop playing for a minute, and just you gotta let them ring out. They treat you like they just treat you like you're so loved and appreciated, and that's a really good feeling. So yeah, very enthused crowds and just yeah, a very
Well,
warm
that's the
feeling
thing. I mean,
there in
you
South
are so loved and appreciated, but they show it more than we do in America. And that's
America.
a huge difference. That's why Toto's been around so long, because when we weren't buying the records here, they were buying them other places. And thank God for that.
True. Very true.
Yeah.
And that was something that I learned coming into the band as well. When I came in, they were telling me the history and stories and things like that, and saying, yeah, this song, we have to play it in Europe every single time because even though you haven't heard it here in the States on the radio, they grew up with it there, like just like we heard Hold the Line in Africa here, they heard Stop Loving You all the time. So,
Yeah. Stop loving. Oh my God. What a great song.
of
And
course.
another part where you have this really high harmony and high lead vocal, actually. So, yeah, wonderful. Any equipment that we haven't talked about, which you use on stage with the band?
Equipment. So, yeah, well, like I mentioned, my primary everything that you're hearing is coming from main stage and my various plugins within that, like Arturia and Native Instruments, a few other things, and that's that's kind of if you had to have one thing and change everything else, that's the most that has to stay the same. So on stage though, in 2024 I had the Korg Kronos, which I love because of the feel of the keys and the sliders and everything. This coming tour, I'm going to have my Arturia Key Lab out with me, and I like that as well for all of the MIDI functionality and just I just like the slimness and the look of the keyboard is really nice. So, and it's just newer, and I just wanted kind of a change up. And also, my Korg Kronos is right here, so I could have it in the studio. So, there's that, and then my Roland RD88 is the second keyboard I have right next to me, which is also a wonderful keyboard, and I have backup sounds on that. If any of the MIDI things ever fail, I have sounds on the Roland that are ready to go because the Roland is really good in its simplicity and just how logical things are to set up sounds within the keyboard. They're very much ready to go and inspiring to play on immediately.
Oh, wonderful. So the upcoming tour for America, where you're with Christopher Cross and Men at Work, any surprises you
Any
can talk
surprise?
about?
Well, would they be surprises if I told you what they were, is the question.
I'm
We,
required to ask that question, knowing you
well,
can't answer.
well,
Ah,
there definitely, yeah, there will definitely be some things that people will be happy to see as Toto fans, and I believe every new year of this band, something's gotta change a little bit. So there's always new things coming in the show, and we're always refining it. And we had some rehearsals this year that we've added some little things here and there. So I think people will be very satisfied and pleased. I mean, first of all, I have a new keyboard on stage. I just told you about. That should be the most exciting thing. They're gonna walk right in the room and go, "Oh my God, he got the Arturia Keylab 88.
ah,
This is
ah.
amazing." So if that gives you any indication of the surprises in store, then I think we're on the
Well,
right
some Toto fans will be exactly like that. When they'll say, "Hey, wait a minute, last year he didn't have this."
track.
Oh, that's nice. What if it sounds different? I mean,
Right.
that's the thing about Toto. You can go to a concert year after year, and I've done that where there are changes which make you want to go next year.
Of course.
And I think you're one of those changes that makes people want to go and see the band again. It's something
Well,
different, something new. And
I've been that fan my whole life, and I love just kind of being a part of the conversation when we're on the bus or whatever, because I give them that perspective. Absolutely. I talk about my fandom of all of bands that I've followed for years, and just my fandom of Toto as well, even now as a part of the band, but there's still all of this. I'm still watching everything as a fan and listening to everything as a fan, and now absorbing all of the music from the last 50 years. So, right, that feeling of, oh, this change and this is exciting. You they It's easy to forget that a little bit when you've been doing it a long time, or just once you're in the rhythm of doing it, you forget how exciting. Wow, this is our seventh show of the run, but this is their first time seeing us either in years and years and years, or just their first time seeing us in general, or this one little thing about the show changed and it's so monumental to you as the fan. And I feel the same way. So I totally get that.
absolutely. So, Dennis, I know I'm running out of time here, but I want to ask you about my Magical Wonderland because I
Yes.
started listening to that. My God, man, that's good. How did that come about?
Well, I appreciate it. So I sent you the brand new mix, which I haven't really talked much about yet, which is coming out in the next couple months here.
Okay.
Did you listen to that one or the original one that's
I listened to that one. Yes.
okay. So that's really cool. So I put out an album in 2021 that I recorded all on my own. I played all of the instruments, and at the time I didn't have a band that I was collaborating with, and I thought, okay, here's my time. I'm just going to go in the studio and see what I could do playing all of the instruments, because at some point in my life I got to do that. And I did that, and I had a lot of things to say. I had a lot of songs that had been sitting for so long that I wanted to finish. I had brand new things that I wanted to put next to it. And I built this whole thing, and I called it My Magical Wonderland. And I put it out, and I I got busy doing all sorts of other things, and then this whole thing came about. And throughout the process, I thought, you know what? There's little things here or there, and I started just fiddling around with, what if this part of this song I put in this keyboard part, or what if I changed the track list and put this here and this here? And I started just playing around with it for no reason, and then I listened back and I went, oh, people have to hear it this way. And then this whole wonderful Toto thing happened, and I realized more eyes are on me, and I want to be putting out my music, and I have a lot more music to put out. But meanwhile, I have this first album out, and I could, with my knowledge now, 5 years, 4 years later, 4 or 5, I can remix this, and I can add all of these little trinkets and things that I've been adding to it throughout these years and put it out as a remix. So that's why this year you will be seeing a new version of that album, which is what you listened to, that I sent you personally, but almost no one in the world has actually heard this new version of it. And it was actually mixed by Ron Bumblefoot, and he just did this phenomenal job. He understood the assignment, because I handed it to him and I said I made these little subtle changes throughout the album, and I put it in a new track list order, and made some little edits and things. The album is now exactly 1 hour long. There were little moments of things where I was able to, this can, and then boom. So anyway, I handed it to him and he understood. I said, I feel like if you were to hold this up to, I was very proud of the mix that I created and everything, because I'm not really an audio engineer by trade. I just kind of learned how to mix by doing it. I wasn't really
Mhm.
studied in the subject. So I wanted to hand it to somebody who can really make the drums properly EQ'd and compressed and all of that. And Ron got it. He said, I can do that. He edited the drums just a little bit, made things a little punchier and properly mastered and everything, but kept my mix intact. So it was kind of like we mixed it together. And anyway, that was a whole technical explanation of what happened. But the point is that My Magical Wonderland is this creation, this creation I have of a selection of songs that I wrote, very personal experiences, and It's my solo album, and it came out in 2021, and now it's coming out again, but in a new way in 2025.
Right. So you can look at that on your website, dennisatlas.com. Will it be on Bandcamp too? You're on Bandcamp, right?
Yeah, I
Are
might
you?
have an
No.
account on it, but I've never really put anything
Okay.
up there. So I will put it on Bandcamp this time. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, but dennisatlas.com. Man, it's good stuff. Anything else you want to add?
Hmm. Uh, I'm just so happy to be here and be rocking with Toto, and I'm just enjoying all of the excitement and communicating with the fans and all of that. It's been a wonderful ride, and it will continue to be for many years to come. So yeah, thanks to the guys in Toto, thanks to Luke and Joe and all the guys. It's just been wonderful.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, the reviews have been raved about your performance in Toto and Dana's cooking with gas. Your solo work is great. And again, check out dennisatlas.com. Appreciate you very much. Enjoy your upcoming tour, and I'll see you soon.
All right, yeah, come check us out in Europe. 2025 is coming up, February.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Preston. Appreciate you.